My name is Mike Clements. I am a farmer here in Yuma, Arizona. I'm the ranch manager and grower for TopFlavor Farms. We're down here in Yuma, Arizona. We classify ourselves as a vegetable farm, but we are farming year round. But vegetables is kind of the main thing that we do. Now I have good things to post. Just a little bit of background about myself. I was born and raised here in Yuma, Arizona. I am a Yuma High criminal. I attended University of Arizona, Yuma here, and graduated in about 2009. Graduated my BS in Arizona or in Ag Systems Management, and I did not come from an agriculture background or family, so a lot of people think that's kind of that's a high hurdle to cross when you're getting into agriculture in a career, but I'm from an agriculture area, but my family's not involved in it. And it really drew me to work outside and work in the fields. And I just kind of worked my way up, starting driving tractor when I was 16 or 17 years old. Worked for various farms throughout through high school and college, and had a full-time job probably by my sophomore year of college, which is a big part of the education process down here is working while we go to school. And probably the kids that I went to school with, 80% of them at least had full-time jobs or at least offers by the time they graduated school. And, pretty much almost 100% rate of people having jobs that once they did graduate. So just a little bit about myself. The reasons I farm. It's a very rewarding career to get involved in. I mean, none of us are going to be doing anything if we're not having food provided for us. And us as vegetable farmers, we're trying to provide a steady food supply 365 days a year. So it's just one less thing that the American consumer needs to worry about. It's a very diverse industry, a lot of different people, a lot of different career paths that can be taken. We get to work outside, which for a lot of us, is a huge upsides. I don't have to sit in an office all day. I'm out in my truck driving around, and honestly, for what I do, I don't feel I work a day in my life. I'm just out there hanging out on a farm, doing what I love, and like the cliche saying is, you have a job you like, you never work a day in your life. Different set of challenges. I have no idea what I'm going to be doing any given day. There's constantly a different set of struggles that we're dealing with, and we're out here problem solving, just trying to get to a common goal, or a common end goal of producing the best product, the safest product for our consumer. Because at the end of the day, I'm feeding my family the same vegetables that we're trying to sell in the store. So we take a lot of pride in that fact. It's a very fast-paced industry to be involved in. I would say high stress, but that's kind of a negative way to look at it. It's just there's a lot of things going on, and we're out here orchestrating this dance on a daily basis. We do work a lot. I mean, it's 6-7 days a week, 70-80 hours a week. But at the same time, it's very flexible. I have my work truck. I can run around and take care of things I need to during the day. So although we do work a lot, I do have flexibility to take care of tasks throughout the day. And then, we can't do this all alone. I have 30 to 100 employees at any given time throughout the year. So, we are a part of a team, but, at the same time, I'm in my truck alone handling things by myself. So it's a great way to be part of a team with also, being by yourself and being left to your own thoughts at times. The farm that I run, TopFlavor Farms, we have about 3,500 acres here between Bard, California, and Yuma, Arizona, which Bard is just literally right on the other side of the river from Yuma. My labor workforce is between 30 and 100 employees, depending on the time of year. We have a full-time office staff of probably about 8 people, including accountants, accounts payable, receivable, HR, personnel, food safety, and everything that goes along with that. We primarily do winter vegetable production, but we are farming 12 months a year. So when we're in our off season, we have a variety of different summer crops. We grow vegetable seed crops, which is a kind of a year-round deal, as well as a small amount of medjool date production. So our farm, we have 3,500 acres. 3,000 acres of that is conventional, and about 500 acres of that is organic production. And I saw a question in the question box earlier before I started. Someone asked about what makes something organic. Well, we go through, in order to certify some ground as organic production, the first piece of criteria is that there can be no synthetic fertilizers or pesticides applied to that field for 3 years, and everything's documented. So there's a transition process that pretty much goes into any piece of ground that has been farmed conventionally. So you go 3 years with no, you can farm the ground or let it sit idle or fallow for 3 years. And then after that, we just, we farm it as we usually would. But like I said, there's no synthetic herbicides, no synthetic pesticides, and no synthetic fertilizers that are used. If and when possible, we also plant organically produced seed, but depending on what you're planting, that can be very difficult to come across. Organic farming it does cost more. I mean, at least 20 to 30%, maybe 40% more, because we don't have the usage of herbicides, and there's a lot more inputs that need to go in. We're putting a lot more, larger volume of nutrients in the field in order to maintain the levels that we need to do to successfully grow those crops. And also because we don't have any herbicides used, we're doing a lot more hand weeding, and just more tractor passes to disturb any weeds and keep the field as clean as possible. So the vegetable season. Our planting season runs from late August through early March. Late August, we'll be transplanting cauliflower, which I'd say transplanting. We actually start cauliflower plants in a greenhouse about 45 to 50 days prior to us planting them in the field. So we call those are transplants or seedlings, and we begin planting those in late August. And then the next thing that we'll start planting is our lettuces and broccolis in mid or early to mid September, and those will pretty much plant through the beginning of December. Some of our shorter day crops we will plant into the January, as well as some of the spring mix and spinach crops that we grow. We consider those high density items, and they're also much quicker to grow. They may take as little as 32 days to reach maturity. So we'll plant those crops until early March. Harvest season here in Yuma runs from mid-November through early April. And our farm, we grow, over 20, 25 different types of vegetables. I'm not gonna go through the whole list, but you can read them there. But iceberg, romaine, different types of lettuces, broccoli and cauliflower. And then we specialize in growing what we consider specialty vegetables that are not grown as nearly in the capacity that iceberg, romaine, and broccoli and cauliflower are, where we grow different types of spinach, beets, kale, fennel, parsley, cilantro, radishes, and I know I'm forgetting, napa cabbage, bok choy, those are big ones for us. But we're constantly trying out new products for several reasons. Obviously, because there's a market need for them, but also it helps us with our soil fertility by having such a diverse cropping system. We're constantly rotating our ground with different types of vegetables just to keep our soil fertility as high as possible, and using different herbicides help us control different weed spectrums on the pieces of ground as well. And also it helps us use our ground base more efficiently, because not all of our ground is perfect quality. We have some ground that may be a little saltier, may have some drainage issues with water. So the large toolbox of vegetables I have, I can place different crops on all those different ranches, so we can try and maximize their output. During the summer, which obviously we're in right now, we plant and grow durum wheat, Sudan grass, teff grass, different types of cotton, And depending on the year in the market, we'll do watermelons and cantaloupes. Durum wheat, we plant durum wheat in, we start planting in December and plant that through February. And all of the durum wheat that's produced in this area is typically exported to Italy and made into pasta. And the reason ours is all exported is because we have fairly high protein levels, as well as the color that the grain actually produces here. The semolina color is exactly the color they want for their pastas. Sudan is a kind of a low nutritional value filler feed that is typically exported to China and Japan to fed for dairy cows. And the reason that they want that these importers want this low nutritional hay is because they add other oils and sweeteners and control the nutritional value of the food in the way that they see fit. And the Sudan grass we grow is just like a filler, just something to help or monitor.
Hey, Mike, you kind of paused there, I think. Can you hear me, Mike? Hold on just a moment. We'll get Mike back on. That's part of the loveliness of technology.
As you can see, a lot of the summer crops that we
kind of lost you there for a minute, Mike.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry. We kind of lost you there. I think you were just talking about that the Sudan grass was basically a filler, and then it kind of froze up. And you're frozen again. Ah. Okay. There you go. You're back.
I'm back. Okay.
Ask him to put his camera on.
So how far do we get?
I have a suggestion, Mike.
Yes.
Do you mind if we'll turn off your video, because that might help with the bandwidth?
Oh, yes.
Okay. So we're going to turn off your video. Excellent.
All
Go
right.
for it.
All right. How far did we get on the last one?
I think you kind of just stopped around tough grass.
Okay, so the teff grass is a high nutritional value equine feed that's moved around, typically or sold in California and Arizona. Cotton, we grow upland and Pima cotton, which is exported mostly to textile mills in China. And then we grow cantaloupes and watermelons, depending on how we feel the market is. And those would plant in January and March and harvest in May and July. So the durum wheat, we harvest that after Memorial Day through July. Sudan grass is also June, July, and August harvest. Teff grass will harvest between April and June. Our cotton is harvested in September, because we terminate our cotton a little earlier so we can get ready to plant for produce. And then the melons would harvest in May and July. We also grow a large amount of vegetable seed crops. Hybrid brassicas, which are broccolis and cauliflowers, hybrid onions, OP or open pollinated onions, also artichoke seed and lettuce seed. So the picture on the bottom left is an OP onion field. The picture in the middle, the bottom in the middle, is an artichoke field that hasn't begun to flower yet. So it's just like growing a typical artichoke field or typical artichoke plant. But we just take everything a little bit longer, and eventually that artichoke will open up, produce a very beautiful purple flower to attract bees, and eventually produce seed for us. The picture on the bottom right is a hybrid brassica field getting ready to flower. So when I say hybrid, we are actually using different male plants and female plants to make a cross, essentially making a child where you have a male and a female that come together and make a unique child. That's exactly what we do on broccolis as well. So the yellow lines you see out there, those are the male plants. So those plants they produce pollen, but they don't have the plant parts to accept pollen. Where the green lines that you see those are the female plants. And when they begin to flower, they will not produce any pollen, and they will only be able to accept the pollen of whatever's around. So we provide the male plants there with the pollen that we want, that then crosses with the female plants and harvest that seed once it's ready and obviously sell it throughout the world. And we contract with large vegetable seed companies to do this production for them. We're not growing or producing the seed for ourselves. This is we're just contracting for other companies. And obviously the top right, or the top picture, that's our use of bees. Bees are very important for all of agriculture. So yes, us as farmers, we take any precautions we can in order to not disturb the bees and our pollinators, because it's just a big cycle that we have to deal with. Our farm also recently got into medjool date production. We bought a grove here in the Bard, California area. Medjool dates are very, very, very big consumer of labor. We have to go up those trees in those lifts 10 to 14 times a year to do different processes, from taking off the shoots from last year, thinning out the dates, pollinating the dates. We put bags around the dates to protect them from sunburn and also bird damage. And then once it's all actually ready to harvest, we go up those trees 2 to 3 times to harvest. Dates are mostly organically produced because there aren't very many pests that attack them. And they're exported globally, obviously mostly the Middle East. And we yield between 8,000 and 12,000 acres of dates on an acre, or 8 to 12,000 pounds per acre. So technological innovations has been a big driver for us the last couple of years. A lot of this is just because we're trying to get ahead of our pending workforce shortage that we see coming down the road. So the picture on the left is a process called thinning. So what we'll do is I would go and typically plant a seed every 2 inches just to ensure a stand, because my ending spacing might be about 12 inches. So in the past, or what we would do is we go plant every 2 inches, and then when the plant's about 14 days old, we go through and mechanically remove the unwanted plants in order to have a 12-inch spacing that's the configuration that plant will grow best in for what we're shooting for. So we would typically do that by hand, but over the last couple of years, we've developed some mechanical thinners that can go and use cameras to see all the plants in the field. They can measure the size of each plant, and we can tell it which plants are desirable and which ones are not desirable. So it'll take out the plants that are not desirable, obviously. When we're doing that, we are just using fertilizer to kill the plants. So we are actually just applying a fertilizer right on top of the plants, a nitrogen-based fertilizer, which then burns the unwanted plant and kills it. And then we can come back and utilize that fertilizer by watering it in. So that fertilizer is first killing the undesirable plants, but then it's benefiting the needed plants in the field. So just trying to utilize all of our resources that we can. Other technological innovations we have is autonomy. The picture you see on the left side of the screen, the little robot, is a fully autonomous, driverless, essentially tractor, and it's performing cultivating. So it's going through and disturbing the bed top and removing any small weeds or any small weeds that are in the field. So we don't have to go through and do it with people. This is a startup company out of France that's moving in here, and that we've been working with them for 2 years on our farm here in the desert, as well as our farm in Salinas, giving them ground to essentially do research and development on their product, as well as work with them to come up with a business plan on how they're going to best market their product. If they're going to be selling their product to individual farmers like myself, or if they come through and offer a service where they do it for a per acre charge. Obviously, nothing's cheap, and right now that little machine alone costs about $250,000. So everything that we do, it costs a lot of money to have fun doing what we do, but you know, it all pays off in the long run. And like we said, we're just doing this to fend off a pending workforce shortage we have coming down our way. The picture on the right is just a fairly representative picture of a modern tractor that you see running the field these days. The screen on the top portion is showing the variable rate technology that they use. So it's showing a map, and it's either a variable rate or a laser. So just different using GPS to apply the fertilizer based on a prescription map that we've done. We've mapped out the field using soil tests. And then the lower screen is just showing all the diagnostics and GPS capabilities of the tractor, because we will use GPS to steer the tractor, where a lot of times nowadays, all of the tractor drivers are doing is monitoring the implement and turning it around. Once they enter the field, they'll press a button and the tractor will drive itself straight and can perform different processes you program into the hydraulics for the implement. Different factors that we have in farming operations. The biggest one is water. Water is our most valuable resource that we have for growing plants. This picture that you see is a picture of the Imperial Dam, which is on the Colorado River, just up about 10 miles north of where my shop sits right now. That water diverts water out of the Colorado River into the All-American Canal, which moves across California and it makes its way up to the San Diego area to provide water for the municipalities in San Diego and LA. But as it moves the water that way, it's also providing water for the Bard Valley and the Yuma Valley, where all of our farm ground is located, as well as the farm grounds over in Imperial County. Our soil, we're constantly rotating our ground, rotating our cropping to ensure we have the best soil fertility to grow our produce and take care of our land. Our land is our livelihood, so like I always joke that every day is Earth Day when you're a farmer, because this is where our livelihood is, where we spend all of our days. We take as much care of the land as we can, because the land in turn takes care of us.
Hey, Mike, I just want to let you know we're getting right within the 5-minute zone.
All right. Pests, we're always, pests are constantly changing, so we need to stay ahead of the pests as much as we can. Weeds cost money. Our labor is we have an aging workforce. We have our labor costs are increasing every year. Our markets, we are strictly a supply and demand business with no government subsidies for vegetable production. So we are at the mercy of the markets when it comes to our incomes. And of course, weather. As farmers, we like to be in control of everything. And as when weather comes our way, that's out of the norm. It makes it difficult for us, especially rain, because it's applying water that we are not planning on. A few misconceptions about farming or agriculture is that the pesticides that we use these days are very specific, softer chemistries, and we're targeting specific pests. We're not spraying chemicals that just go out and zero and kill everything out in the field. We're monitoring and using our beneficial insects to our advantage, because in the long run, it is cheaper for us to farm that way. A lot of the pesticides that we use conventionally are derived from organic compounds. We just synthetically produce them because it's cheaper. And as farmers, it costs money to spray, so we're not just out there spraying just because. We work with licensed pest control advisors that are licensed by the state of Arizona, California, and in the United States to scout our fields, find out what pests we have, and also recommend different spray packages to get rid of any pests that we may have. Other problems facing producers are the lack of knowledge of the consumer. The more that our consumer knows, it's just going to benefit us as a farming industry. We have a shrinking amount of farmable ground because of the spread of urbanization. Natural resources, limited water, regulatory from the government, imports and exports, tariffs hurt our bottom line, and aging workforce. And then how this different STEM, how I use different STEM in my job. I mean, I'm a biologist, a microbiologist, a chemist, and a physicist. When I'm building equipment, we use different technologies, GPS, autonomy, IT, and variable rate, and other AI properties. Engineering, every type of engineering is needed in agriculture. Mechanical engineering, electrical, hydros, civil, you name it, there's engineering involved here. And math is also very crucial. Algebra, geometry, and stats and accounting are used on a daily basis. Our careers.
Mike, I'm gonna because this I think that Dr. Brenes and whatnot. Go ahead and wrap up because we have one question I'd like for you to address. No, you can. Aw.
Just pictures. It is a very family business, so you can bring the kids out to the farm. We do work a lot, so bring the kids out, show them around. Wheat harvest, spring mix, and the right is kale. The left is sunflowers that we grew for seed. My son weeding some onions, and on the right, those are cauliflower transplants.
And where do you get your transplants from?
We use a local distributor, mostly here in Yuma, Keith Williams seed, and they just bought a greenhouse, so we use them.
Good. Okay, keep going.
Just more pretty pictures of fields. That's artisan lettuce on the top left. Harvest crews harvesting iceberg lettuce on the right. The bottom left is radish production, and the bottom right, that's fennel. That's all we got.
All right. Thank you, Mike. We do have one question I'd like for you to address, and I think maybe we can turn your video back on. But here's a question. What changes what changes are happening because of COVID or because of E. coli? Now that's like a big question, more than what we have time for. But if you want to just kind of touch on that, maybe how they are prevented or how they're tested. If not, I think you have access to the question and answer box, right? So yeah, I think we could probably handle that.
So quickly, on COVID, this is our slower season of the year. So I'm down to a smaller work crew anyways, where everyone's spreading out. A lot of my tractor drivers, instead of coming to the shop in the morning, they'll drive their truck or their vehicle right to the field. So they get into the tractor and limit their exposure to other employees, other people. For E. coli, there's a number of things we're doing. We have a very strict food safety protocol that we follow, as well as now we are treating our water with chlorine or parasitic acid in order to kill any coliform particles that may be in the water.
Excellent. Okay, one last thing here before we switch over to Carrie. I see her there. You had mentioned that sometimes people will say when you have to turn over a crop, they'll question you and say, well, why don't you donate it? And I think there's a misconception there as well. So could you just touch on that?
So yeah, when we do go through a field and harvest, there's things that are left behind because, for whatever reason that crop is not perfect. Or, I mean, we are supply and demand. So if we have 1,000 boxes of lettuce in a field, but there's only a demand for 800 boxes of lettuce, we're not going to go harvest 1,000 boxes because we're not going to harvest. That's more cost we're going to incur for the farm. So if there's only a demand for 800 cartons, we're only going to go harvest the 800 cartons, and the rest of it is there when we distance the field, which we will get some nutritional value out of that crop. And same thing if it's a lot of product in the field that's left behind, it costs money to harvest it. So,
and I think that also, excuse me for interrupting you, I believe you had, when our previous conversation, you had mentioned that also to maintain those food safety protocols, you really restrict and limit who can go into the fields and whatnot.
Yes, we have a strict chain of custody of who goes in our field. We want to know everyone who's in our field and why they're in our field. So if we just open the field up to let people come in and a U-pick for produce, if there is a foodborne illness that results in that field, I'm just opening myself up to more liability that I don't need to bring that risk onto myself.
Sure. And it does provide soil.
And it's all just down into the soil and it's broken down and adds to our soil fertility program.
Excellent.